Hey everyone, my name is Kevin, and I'm the director for Group 6 Julius Caesar.
My name's Sam Hoffman. I'm the dramaturge.
I'm Jake Rubens, and I'm in charge of costumes, lighting, and set design.
To give a little context, Julius Caesar was assassinated on March 15, 44 BC. Power politics were becoming the norm in Rome, and Rome's honor and tradition as a republic hung in the balance. For this production, the stage is set in ancient Rome after Julius Caesar has defeated Pompey around 45 BC. Julius Caesar is a highly complex play with several themes: honor, fate, free will, and etc. We decided, however, for this production for Hammer 2023 that we'll be focusing on honor and loyalty. We wanted to present the play as close to historical accuracy as possible and show the struggle of power throughout. Many argued that protagonist is either Julius Caesar or Brutus, but because of Caesar's death in Act 3, we decided that Brutus will be the driving force and the tragic hero of the play. He's a man of honor and has loyalty to that of Rome. Moving on.
As stated before, the super objective is honor and loyalty. Brutus forsakes his loyalty with Caesar in order to remain loyal to the Roman Republic. This is a perfect example of Roman honor. Roman honor consists of pride for Rome, rationality, and selflessness. He's the only one to have chosen to kill Caesar not out of envy for what Caesar had or his own ambitions. He killed Caesar to protect the Roman Republic. Justice demands that he pay for the murder of Caesar, but he is still honored by those who avenge Caesar. We know that even after the play ends, Antony and Octavian, the avengers of Caesar, would eventually fight in a civil war over their ambitions, and Octavian would eventually become emperor, heralding in the fall of the Roman Republic. Brutus was the last honorable Roman, which makes his role in the play and his eventual death the focus of this tragedy. Moving on.
Production design. The play takes place in the city of Rome, capital of the Roman Republic, which was at its height at this time in 44 BC. The city is made up of massive marble buildings built by incredible engineering. Despite the marble, it was not a shining white city. Many buildings were painted, with red being a dominant color. It was also a dirty city, as it was home to almost 1 million people at the time. Moving on. Costumes historically accurate to the time period of 44 BC, senators and nobles were dressed similarly with white togas or robes trimmed with red. Women married to these senators and nobles dressed richly, with flowing robes of varying colors. They wore a lot of jewelry to show off their status. Plebeians do not wear togas, but tunics covered by a colored sash. They're much more rich than commoners, but do not enjoy the prestige of the nobility. Commoners wore simple, undyed tunics, common for laborers and workers. Moving on, you can see the examples of all the different classes and the colors that they wore during the time. Moving on to slide 8, another example, in Act 1. Act 1, Scene 1, which would ambient light that would be used for outside, as when Flavius and Morellus talked to some of the townspeople, as well as when Caesar is first warned by the Toothsayer to beware of the Ides of March. The audience will get a clear example of costume as the entire city of Rome is present to see Caesar, who wears fancy robes with gold, as opposed to plebeians and soldiers. The lighting and set design, however, when Cassius and Brutus speak indoors, reflects their strength, as throughout the play they plan in darkness and die in daylight. Moving on to Act 2, Scene 1 would show a typical Roman house set design for when Brutus paces and gets a letter that turns him against Caesar. Candles and spotlight would illuminate his attitude change towards Caesar. In the next scene, Caesar sits in his house at night, when the lightning should be portrayed as dim ambient light, possibly also lit by moonlight as well if the windows were open. I would also incorporate many bright candles, for if Caesar was awake, he would have an entire room filled with many torches by his servants. This would be shown an example of Fresnel light, which would be a softer edge. And the scene is only Caesar, his wife, and possible servants. And Caesar and Calpurnia would be in night robes, but they would be extremely luxurious and even have gold necklaces with them. For Caesar is a man so powerful, he would always have gold jewels no matter what time of day. I would also incorporate pillars for when Caesar in his room is because it would come as close to the actual depiction of Rome. Caesar's room could also be upstairs, so you can show a set of stairs that would, as Caesar would live high on top of his castle-like house, which overlooks all of Rome. Moving on to Act 3, being daylight during the capital would call for a much natural light, but when Caesar gets a warning from the Toothsayer, Caesar would immediately pass through a dark tunnel as he heads to the capital, as darkness is a meeting place for the conspirators and symbolizes their intent to murder him. The clothing can pretty much stay the same, as everyone who attends the capital would still be dressed according to their class, all except for Artemides, someone who learns of the conspiracy and could be dressed especially poor looking, which is the reason why Caesar may refuse to read his letter. The costumes for the conspirators at the end of Act 3 would change drastically in order to better convey the gruesome murder of Caesar. When the conspirators walked through drenched in blood, they would stand out from everyone else. The set would include objects from the Capitol such as statues, pillars, fire, and steps that would be illuminated in which those giving speeches will walk up to as they address the crowd. Moving on.
We wanted to focus on Act 1, Scene 2, because this is the start of Brutus becoming the tragic hero. An overview of the scene is Brutus and Cassius express their great concern about Caesar. Cassius and Brutus discuss their concern about Caesar's power. They learn that the people have offered Caesar the opportunity to become king, but he has declined. Moving on, Sam will talk about the character objectives.
In this scene, Brutus and Cassius have objectives that nearly align. Cassius wants to get Brutus to join the conspirators, and Brutus is simply worried about Caesar becoming a tyrant. Brutus feels pride for Rome, yet worries about what Caesar means for the future of Rome. Cassius is being manipulative and deceitful. He claims to feel the same way as Brutus, but in reality, Cassius wants the crown that was thrice offered to Caesar. This interaction forces Brutus to question what loyalty he holds more dear, his loyalty to Caesar or his loyalty to the Republic.
What we want to focus on is the positioning between these two characters. If you move on, next slide, please. And we'll note that the slide on the far right, when Brutus is turned away from Cassius, as Cassius is trying to appeal to Brutus, it shows the distance and how far Brutus is away from turning onto Caesar. But by the end of the conversation, they move closer towards each other. That is because Cassius is appealing to Brutus's inner desire, and that enables him to convert as a conspirator. Moving on. We decided only to focus on Acts 1 to 3, mainly because of time constraints, but if you were to look at our Google Doc, you see as in our Google Doc we have all our resources here from Acts 1 through 5 with all the state and setting and resources that we've gathered so far. Alright, that concludes our presentation for Group 6, Julius Caesar.